Do you find yourself saying, "Oh, when I was growing up, those were the good old days," or, things like missing "Be home when the streetlights come on." Oh my gosh, I think we could talk to this author for hours about the way kids are being raised now and the way we were raised as a whole different generation. My author is named Robert Williams. He wrote Woodlawn Giants. Welcome, Robert.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
That all sounds familiar to you, right? Be home when the streetlights come on.
That and the next thing was the big yell, get home.
That's right. Or did you have a bell your mom would ring so that you knew yours was a specific kind? I mean, so many things are different from today, not necessarily worse. I don't know. What is the general message of your book?
Yeah, the general message is that, albeit many things are the same as far as how important they are. And for those three, I would always allude to first and foremost, a strong family, a nuclear family is where you learn values. And those were complemented in concert also by the schools and even more so by church, where,
Yes.
church was a Sunday in the morning, and we're Southern Baptists, so I grew up in the South. But you went in Sunday, you went to Sunday school, and then you went to the sermon, and then Sunday nights, then Wednesday night, and if it was a revival, it was every day that ended in Y, which is every day.
That's right. We're not saying that times are worse now. They certainly are different, but the memories that we have of those days are so fond. Putting this in a book is like leaving a legacy. It's important, right?
Right, I think so, and I think when people ask me, what I would think was the biggest difference. One of them is really simple. Back when I was growing up, when you were in trouble, you couldn't go outside. Today it's a 180. Today, if your kid's in trouble, you're telling them to get out of their room and to go outside.
Wow.
So,
Wow,
just
that's
little
right.
things like that just struck me. That struck me as completely different.
So, what was the inspiration for your writing your book? Was it a one-time aha moment, or has this been boiling and brewing for years?
No, it actually was a one-time aha moment, and what sort of the inspiration for that was my mother passed away 2 summers ago from,
I'm sorry.
and it was the height of the COVID crisis. So it was a very, she was, and she's a big part of the book, and that's why I mentioned this. But she was in the education system for 40 years. Started as a social worker, then a teacher, and then a principal, and she impacted many lives. And it was sort of frustrating for the fact that it was a graveside ceremony. It was quite small, and she didn't, all her friends her age were afraid to even come outside. I mean,
Sure.
so it was scaled down, but so be it. That's what we dealt with. But my brothers asked me to deliver the eulogy, and real quick, I'll tell you the story that was the inspiration for this. So I delivered the eulogy. I got up and I told the story of my mother's pear tree. I thought it was time to show the funny part of her and celebrate life as opposed to all the sadness that had been going on up to that point. But she had a pear tree. It took 2 years to bear fruit, and she could look out her kitchen window and see it. She was so proud. She told us boys, "Don't play ball around that pear tree. You're going to knock the pear off." We're like, yeah, sure. Well, 2 days later, what do you think happened? We knocked the pear off. So I told my little brother, I go, well, we're in for it. So I came from and here's another difference. I came from the spare the rod, spoil the child generation. So I knew we had it coming. So I told him, look, we can either take our little beating now, or we can prolong it and buy us a few days of time. So I had him run in the house and get some tape, and he came back. And I taped the pear up to the tree. And then, of course, it bought us a couple of days, but then it turned brown and it fell to the ground. And we got 2 beatings. One for not listening to what we were told the first time, and second for the cover-up operation, which is always the worst in every case. So it was a huge lesson for us.
Oh, Robert, what a beautiful story. And how great that we can smile about it. And
right.
then Mom's smiling about it in heaven too.
Right.
Yeah.
But that sort of segued into the funeral director told me after, she goes, "That's the funniest story I've ever heard." I go, well, that was it. And then later at the wake, when we're over at her house having food and everything, that's when it entered my mind. There was many stories similar to that one where there was a lesson learned. not just from my mother, but my grandparents and friends and family as well. And I decided
Mm,
I wanted to capture those and put those in
that's
writing.
beautiful.
Thank
So
you.
that's what this is. It's a series of stories.
Yeah, a series of stories of growing up on that little street, and that being the other difference. I'm with having so many years in the military. My kids never experienced the having a friend from the time they were born till they
Mm.
graduated high school.
That
My best
constant.
friend, you're
Yeah.
right. My best friend, we were in the church nursery together because they would stash you away there from the congregation all the way up until we graduated from high school. I knew that I had the same group of friends and was in the same place.
Wow.
So that was
Wow, that
neat.
is so, so special.
Mhm.
Let's talk about some of the stories. Big Phil.
Yeah, Big Phil. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Sling Blade where they had Carl in
Oh,
there.
absolutely.
All right.
Yeah. Classic.
And just what a nice person like he was. And there's just one scene where he's playing football and he lets the little kid that he befriended in the movie score. And he's like, Carl, I know you could have, I just appreciate that you let me do that. And that was Big Phil. He was the biggest kid on the block. And normally the biggest kid on the block can sometimes be a bully. He was the exact opposite. Whenever we played games, he would have an advantage physically, but he would always come down to our level and include the smaller kids and to make sure they had special moments within whatever event that we were playing. He has since passed away, but and I can talk a bit about that later on the cover is where they're depicted friends and my brothers and cousins and stuff on them.
Is that Janice and Skillet?
Yeah, Skillet's quite the snarky one. I didn't want it to be all boys. Predominantly it was mostly boys on our street.
Sure.
It just worked out that way. But she was a girl that she didn't give up an inch, man. She had quick with the tongue and would, just snarky comments. And, we would think we were so hot, such hot stuff and stuff. And she'd sort of bring us back down to earth with her comments. And interesting enough, I met her later in life. And this is sometimes when, the past catches up with the present. When I was doing my grad school at Florida State, she had moved to Tallahassee as well in some nursing program. And I ran into her then. And then again, later, she was one of the people that was taking care of my mother in the last couple of years of her life. So all
Wow.
these things
Came
sort of
around.
some of them came full circle.
Yes.
Some of these people.
These lessons, as you're talking about these people, you have to think that this had a profound effect for you as an adult. Like,
Mhm.
it taught you how to interact with people, how to deal with different personalities. And I'm not so sure kids today are getting that, especially with schools, going hybrid or, totally virtual. You're missing that interaction.
Mhm.
That's teaching us, it's grooming us to have jerk bosses and wonderful coworkers and
Mhm.
everything in between. That's a huge lesson.
Yeah, and that's where I'm a big advocate of public schooling. I mean, I think public schooling gets a bad rap sometimes. I think,
Sure.
there were private schools in my city, but my dad always insisted that it was important that we have more of a cross section of society and that you learn more from
Oh,
your
yeah.
fellow students and from the things that come up there than you would packed away in some little, secure environment that
Safe
was.
little bubble, right?
Yeah, exactly. So
Robert, if someone were to pick up your book and read it all the way through, what would be one of the most wonderful compliments they could say that they took away?
I think it's the fact that I think it would be an inspiration for a lot of people to put things into writing and so it's there for. I'll be completely honest. My kids don't seem excited about the book as I wish they would be, but I
Sure.
think at some point in their life they'll pick it up and having a historical record of the people that, and not so much your own family, but neighbors that were just like family
Yes.
uh, in life. And I think it's important to actually do capture things on their written record, or it just goes away.
So, Robert, just give me a little taste of what life has been for you as far as, your bio. What you mentioned the military. How long were you there? And what were some of your main focuses corporate wise?
I was in the military for 32 years, which is a long time.
Yeah.
Big part of that was spent in Europe. You could probably divide my career up into two halves. The first 16 years I was involved in like combat arms. I was in the infantry, first as an enlisted, and then secondly as an officer. And the last 16 years, beginning around 2000, I became a Russia Foreign Area Officer,
Wow.
which is someone who, it's a pretty good program where you get advanced civil school and you're able to get a master's degree in Russian studies, and you go and work abroad. And most of that time was spent in Estonia, which is one of the Baltic states,
Yeah.
and in Germany. So, but always with a focus on Russia and what's Russia doing. Now, I retired in 2017, and I picked right back up. I'm a contractor now for a company called Booz Allen, where I support clients with basically any consultation as it goes as far as Russia, which seems to be a hot topic these
That's
days.
a hot topic. That's a whole nother show for sure. Robert, we want to thank EC Publishing for making this interview and time together possible. And where is your book available?
It's in all the major, it's Barnes & Noble, Amazon,
yeah.
Kindle. I mean, if you Google me, you can find it. And
Okay.
so I'm there.
Robert, thank you so much again for
Thank
being
you.
on the show. We appreciate it. Robert Williams, Woodlawn Giants. Read it and give them a rating. That means a lot. Thanks again, Robert. Have a great
All
day.
right. Thank you. I appreciate it.